Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again. All right. Been a busy day for us today. It's like the third show that we did today. Guys, happy holidays. I know Thanksgiving is tomorrow. Most people in America celebrate Thanksgiving. So for those of you who do, well, happy holidays, man. I hope you have a great time with your family. But we do have a big update, big update on the D4vd case, this saga that seems never ending. Well, it looks like law enforcement is taking strides to getting justice for Celeste, for us to figure out what happened to this beautiful girl. Apparently, according to multiple media sources, we're going to actually start with the LA Times. Actually, let's start with Billboard. Let's do Billboard first. We got a Billboard, LA Times, New York Post, and we have a few things from the internet denizens. Listen, it's starting to spread, guys. So basically, grand jury hearing evidence tied to death of teen found in D4vd's Tesla report. According to new report on an LAPD detective has also classified the death of Celeste Rivas as a murder investigation, ladies and gentlemen. A Los Angeles grand jury has reportedly heard evidence from prosecutors tied to the death of teenager Celeste Rivas Hernandez. People just say Rivas sometimes, but her name is Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She's Latino, or rather Latina, and she has two last names, all right? Who was found dead in the trunk of a Tesla registered to singer David in September. According to the Los Angeles Times, an LAPD detective has classified the Rivas death as a murder investigation, and the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office has presented evidence related to the case to an investigative grand jury. Now, I've worked with and continue to work with investigative grand juries all the time. And what they are is it basically allows a district attorney, county attorney to present the case to a grand jury over a long period of time. And it makes it much easier for them to get subpoenas and search warrants and stuff like that. So it's almost like the grand jury is acting as the detectives. Like they are going through the evidence and they're getting that case to the point where one would get a true bill before a grand jury. But it makes it much easier to get subpoenas, to get search warrants and stuff like that. And also to bring people in and question them under oath. So that's real big right there, that you could bring people in and question them in front of the grand jury under oath. So it's a very, very, very good investigative tool. It has been used in many of my cases. I've never personally been in it because it's the DA that runs it, so I don't know exactly how it's run. It's secretive. You can't talk about it. But as a detective, when I'm working with a DA and they're opening up an investigative grand jury, I'm not a part of that. I'm not in that grand jury. I don't know the inner workings. I just know the outcome of the investigative grand jury. So basically, they usually only open up investigative grand juries when it's a serious, high-profile case, just like this case. So it makes perfect sense, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep going. The court doc listed a grand jury number, meaning a grand jury exists. Several witnesses have reportedly been called before the investigative grand jury. Like I told you, could question people under oath, which can recommend charges but cannot itself bring an indictment. The LA Times also cited documents showing that the LAPD detectives received a ruling from a judge not to have Rivas' autopsy made public. When reached for comment, a spokesperson for the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office explained that in accordance with longstanding office policy and California law, we are not at liberty to discuss or disclose any information about grand jury proceedings. Billboard also reached out to David's lawyer for comment. Now, this kind of makes sense now why they want to seal everything up, because there's an investigative grand jury that's a part of this, and everything that the grand jury does is secret. And so I now see why there's a temporary, like, people are acting like this hold is indefinite. It is not an indefinite hold that's been placed on the medical examiner's office. It is a temporary hold, a temporary injunction that was placed by the court to prevent them from listing the results of the autopsy on the website. And I know a lot of people, a lot of different internet personalities are like, well, we don't see what difference it makes or whatever. Some people are attorneys, some people are just layman people. But you got to understand, like I've said to you guys before, time and time again, we're not the only ones consuming this information. All right. This is not Joe Schmo with a public defender attorney. This is Joe Schmo, who has resources to hire his own private investigators, which I assure you he probably has already hired in secret. This is Joe Schmo, who has the money to actually pay for his own pathologist, his own ME report if he wanted to. This is Joe Schmo that has the money to retest any toxicology that is done on Celeste's biological material. This is also Joe Schmo, who has a high-powered attorney who has experience fighting against district attorneys for high-profile clients and, in many instances, winning. So whatever information that we get, that's information that his attorneys get before he's even arrested, before he's even indicted, before he's even charged with a crime. They're going to work on this case. They're going to work on every single piece of evidence that comes out before we even get to a courtroom. Do we really want the alleged killer, possible killer of Celeste, to be prepared for what's to come? No. So what does it hurt to have a temporary injunction on posting the results of the autopsy so that they can do what they have to do without alerting the opposing counsel what they're doing until they're ready to drop the hammer? And at that point, everybody's entitled to it. The defense is entitled to the information. The public's entitled to it. What's the problem with waiting just a little bit longer? At least that's my opinion. What is my opinion worth? Man, I'm just a detective. You know, what do I know? Anyway, let's keep going. Rivas was reported missing to authorities after last being seen in April of 2024 in Riverside County, California, when a body was discovered in David's Tesla. The singer was in the midst of his Withered World Tour. The rest of David's trek was canceled, as were plans for the Withered Deluxe album. The singer hasn't made any public statements said since Rivas' body was found. Yeah. All right. Wow. Let's keep going, guys. Let me just remind you, please hit that like button, support the channel, hit the like button. And if you don't mind, if you can go and basically give us some engagement in the chat, say hi, put a thumbs up, smiley face, whatever you want to put in the chat, that's engagement. We really would appreciate it. Definitely, it helps us get into the algorithm and helps the show grow. All right, let's keep going. All right, so the LA Times, LA grand jury now probing mystery of dead teen stuffed in trunk of David's Tesla, sources say. Los Angeles County grand jury is hearing evidence related to the death of teenage girl whose body was discovered stuffed inside of the trunk of singer David's Tesla earlier this year, two law enforcement sources told the Times. The revelation follows the gruesome discovery of the remains of a 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The LA Times got it right. Her name is Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Get it right, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate the LA Times for getting that right. In a Hollywood tow yard on September 8th, although the Los Angeles Police Department has publicly declined to characterize the girl's death as a homicide, a recent court filing by the LAPD detective referred to the case as a murder investigation. Wow. This is huge news for this case. Huge news. Huge news because the police are acknowledging that someone took Celeste's life and it was foul play. Wasn't an overdose. Wasn't accidental. It was murder. That's progress, ladies and gentlemen. It's progress. Let's keep going. Now the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office has begun presenting evidence to what's known as an investigative grand jury, according to one of the sources who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the case with the media. One of the sources said the grand jury was in session for several days in mid-November, but it was unclear whether prosecutors have completed their presentation of evidence. And so, Grant, when you do an investigative grand jury, it can be called back multiple times. So you could show the case, and then that grand jury could go away. You need a couple of weeks, couple of days, and then you could bring that grand jury back and continue showing the case. It does not have to be a constant fluid thing where you have a limited amount of time to show the evidence to the grand jury. You can take breaks and you can recall a grand jury when you do an investigative grand jury. Let's keep going. Prosecutors may convene an investigative grand jury to subpoena witnesses and compel other evidence, including videos. Such investigative panels may recommend charges, but they cannot themselves return an indictment. In addition to the two law enforcement sources, a court petition provided by the Los Angeles Times on Monday contained a grand jury number referencing the existence of a grand jury. In the document, LAPD Detective Joshua Byers of the Robbery Homicide Division successfully persuaded a judge to bar the LA County Medical Examiner from divulging autopsy results and other details related to the girl's death that would otherwise be public. It was Byers who characterized the probe into the girl's death as an investigation into murder. Schmurder! That's big, man. Huge. According to the document, Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman, who handles some of the county's most high-profile murder cases, has called several witnesses before the grand jury, according to one of the law enforcement sources. Silverman did not immediately respond to a request for comment Wednesday. The district attorney's office said in a statement it could not disclose any information about grand jury proceedings. An LAPD spokesperson referred to the Times to a statement issued earlier this week which did not address the existence of a grand jury. An attorney for the 20-year-old singer, whose real name is David Anthony Burke, did not respond to a request for comment. Detectives have spent several months investigating the circumstances surrounding the girl's death, as well as her relationship with David. Which means they're not only investigating foul play. They're not just investigating homicide. They're also investigating that inappropriate, intimate relationship. I want to say the S word, but I don't want YouTube to come down on me. But you guys know what I'm talking about. That inappropriate, intimate relationship that existed between David and Celeste. It was diabolical, ladies and gentlemen. It was not good. Let's keep going. The performance Tesla had been abandoned on a street in the Hollywood Hills for several weeks before it was removed. Tow yard worker noticed a foul smell coming from the Tesla, alerted the LAPD. Inside the trunk, police found a black bag containing Celeste's remains. She weighed 71 pounds and had a shush tattoo on her finger, according to details released by the medical examiners prior to the court order. Now, people are making a big to-do about her weight. This is the weight that she weighed when she went to the medical examiner's office. We all saw pictures of Celeste. She had weight on her. She had weight on her. She was mummified and liquefied and decomposing inside of a trunk for months. I do not believe that she was frozen. So my belief is that she's in that trunk since July 29th. And she's decomposing that entire time. Of course she's going to weigh, her remains are going to weigh something around 71 pounds. Of course. But of course. So I'm not in the camp that I heard people say that maybe she was starved or something like that. I don't believe so. Nothing's a bad theory. Don't get me wrong. They could very well be right. That's not a bad theory. I'm not saying it's a bad theory. I just don't believe it was what happened. I believe clearly they removed her from the trunk. She went to the medical examiner office. They put her on a scale. They weighed the remains, and that's what remains, 71 pounds of this human being after they were basically decomposing inside of a trunk for many weeks. That makes more sense to me. Let's keep going. Celeste's body was discovered the day after her 15th birthday. LAPD Captain Scott Williams, who leads the Robbery Homicide Division, said the girl had been dead for at least several weeks. On Monday, Williams said the body had not been decapitated or frozen, as some media outlets have reported. Detectives determined that the Tesla had been left parked along Blueberg Avenue since late July, around the time that David began a national tour. Tour was canceled soon after the death investigation drew worldwide media attention. David, a young singer whose music straddles the line between R&B and indie rock and devil music. I'm sorry, did they say devil music? Oh no, I just added that. I apologize. Has raised eyebrows with some of his musical themes, particularly in the wake of Celeste's death. Why don't you expand on that? Devil music. Let's keep going. The Queensborn vocalist has appeared in a music video filled with violent imagery. A young woman with an apparent chest wound lies on a bed as the singer hovers over her, blindfolded, his white shirt splattered with blood. In another video, One More Dance, David drags a person who bears the singer's likeness to a car where a couple stuffs the person into the trunk. Romantic Homicide, his most popular track with more than 1 billion plays on Spotify, ends with the lyrics, "In the back of my mind, I killed you, and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true. I hate you." Devil music. Devil music. Let's keep going. Long before the discovery of her body, Celeste had run away from her Lake Elsinore home. She was in the 7th grade, and her family reported her missing at least 3 times in 2024, according to Riverside County Sheriff's Office. During that time, she appeared alongside David online, and law enforcement sources said she resided at a rental home with the singer. The pair met through social media, sources previously told The Times. Detectives have been working for weeks to trace Celeste's final movements and determine any connection with David. As part of their investigation, detectives searched the Hollywood Hills home where David lived and removed electronic devices and other items from the residence, which the singer's manager had leased, according to the owner. On Tuesday, LAPD said it has some evidence that David went to Santa Barbara County in the spring. All right, so it looks like that may still be a viable circumstance. See, I was calling that into question because TMZ was reporting. I'm like, is this from the same source that told TMZ that she was frozen? If it's from that same source, I don't believe it. But it looks like this is coming from the LAPD. It looks like TMZ source is someone in the medical examiner's office. Now, I watched another video of TMZ where he was talking to the guy that he was co-hosting with an old Angry Men podcast, something like that. And Harvey said, I'm surprised people are assuming that our source is from the ME, but he spent this whole week saying that his source is a trusted source in the ME. I think Harvey just doesn't remember what he says. The whole week he tells us that his source is a trusted source in the ME, and in the show he does today, he says, oh, how do they assume that our source is from the ME? Because you told us, Harvey. You told us the whole week it's somebody in the ME. So it looks like that stuff is coming from the ME's office. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. And this is coming from LAPD. So I'm going to still give this some weight and say that this might be factual, that he did go take this trip in the middle of the night. But I'm not believing nothing that's coming from that ME source, because that whole frozen thing makes no sense to me whatsoever. All right, let's keep going. Celeste first disappeared last year on Valentine's Day. Her mother made emotional pleas on Facebook for help in locating her daughter. Burke shot to fame, posting clips from the video game Fortnite to YouTube and other social media, then pivoted to making his own music and scored a hit with Romantic Homicide. Investigators believe that more than one person was involved in the handling of the teen's body in the months before her remains were found in a Tesla, according to 2 law enforcement sources familiar with the probe. LAPD Deputy Chief Alan Hamilton, who serves as the department's chief of detectives, said this week that accountability is coming. Our RHD detectives have been working. They're going to get justice for Celeste Rivas. Hamilton said no one is off the table, including him, David. Hamilton said, contrary to some reports, that investigators haven't sought the performance cooperation. On Monday, the Los Angeles, Hamilton said, contrary to some reports, that investigators haven't sought the performance cooperation. On Monday, the Los Angeles County Examiner's Office revealed it had been barred from disclosure. So they actually cut off this statement, because the rest of the statement, I read it, is that David has not cooperated. So they made a mistake and cut off this quote from this chief. He said, Hamilton said, how the statement's supposed to go is, Hamilton said, contrary to some reports that investigators haven't sought the performance cooperation. Then it went on to say that David has not cooperated with the investigation and has not spoken with the investigators. That is what I read before. Let's keep going. On Monday, the Los Angeles County Examiner's Office revealed it had been barred from disclosing any details about the Hernandez death by the court order. Once again, there's so much machinations going on right now. It's the LAPD, the Robbery Homicide Division, and then you have the District Attorney's Office. They have decided that they did not want the medical examiner's report released. And then you have the medical examiner trying to cause friction and go to the media and make drama and go against not only the police department, but also the district attorney's office. Make that make sense. Like I said before, these folks are just the scientists. They're the science nerds. Now, somebody tried to correct me inside the chat and said, they're not scientists. They're medical doctors. Yes, most MEs are medical doctors, but they do not practice medicine anymore. They don't practice medicine anymore. They're scientists. They use a scientific method. They use proven scientific theories in order to find out how somebody died. So they become scientists, okay? They're medical doctors by trade. Most of them practice medicine at some point. Many of them were surgeons, but they hung up that cape and now they're scientists using a scientific method to find out how a person perished. Hope that makes sense for you. Now, let's keep going. The practice of security holds is virtually unheard of in other countries and had not been proven to improve outcomes in the legal system, Ukpo said. And Ukpo sounds like a Nigerian name. I could be wrong. He could be Asian, but it sounds like it's a Nigerian name to me. I should look it up. But Ukpo, who's the head of the medical examiner's office, he is the medical examiner, and everybody who works for him is probably associate or deputy. I don't know what they call them, but he is the medical examiner. He's the boss. He says, we are dedicated to serving our community with full transparency. However, the law precludes us from doing so while the court orders remain in the case. All right. I'll read the last part. In this court declaration, Bryce wrote that making the autopsy and medical findings public will reveal or tend to reveal the ongoing investigation and the integrity of the investigation, as well as the identity of witnesses and or informants who are cooperating with law enforcement. That's all you need to hear. He's telling you if you release it, it's going to hurt the investigation. Who are you, Ukpo, to go against what the detective is saying? It's like the detective questioning your autopsy findings. The detective is not qualified to question the medical examiner's autopsy findings. If the defense wants to question the autopsy findings, the defense has to hire their own qualified ME to review those findings and then question it if there's a scientific question that they can make against it. Just like the detective can't question the autopsy findings of the medical examiner. Who is the medical examiner to question the detective's investigative process? You are a super intelligent person, but guess what? In this niche of the law, you're not qualified to question this detective. This detective with probably half the other education that you have has more experience and authority than you do when it comes to how to not undermine the integrity of his case. So I really think that they need to do something about this medical examiner because he's picking fights he doesn't need to fight. Let's keep going. Disclosure, he wrote, could endanger the lives of witnesses and compromise the investigation. So from this detective's experience, somebody's life could be on the line if this is released. But Ukpo doesn't care. He don't care. Los Angeles County Superior Judge Craig Richmond agreed and granted the LAPD's request that the medical examiner's findings be sealed pending another court decision. Now, I'm going to tell you this. When the detective and the district attorney is talking to the judge, they have to reveal to the judge all of the things that they're not revealing to us. They have to tell them this person is cooperating. We believe that if David's team finds out that this person's cooperating, there's a possibility David, who's associated with that person allegedly, might try and get a hit on this person and kill this person, or might try and pay this person off for silence, or this person is so close to David that we feel like David could coerce this person not to cooperate. They have to say all the names of the players. So that judge knew every single aspect of this request and the importance of it. And that judge said, I agree with you. So once again, Ukpo, stay in your lane, bro. Do the good science. Find out why she was killed and how she was killed. Or not why, but how she was killed. That's your lane. Anyway, let's go to the next exhibit. Let's do it.
Death of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. TMZ now says a source inside the medical examiner's office is doubling down.
But before we go to that, I want to go to TMZ and hear what they have to say about this new occurrence of the whole grand jury. Let's go through that. And guys, by the way, we have a lot of people watching the show right now. We appreciate you guys coming through, showing us love. This is breaking news. It just came out. Please do hit that like button, guys. We have over 300 people watching, over only 150 likes. please hit that like button. It's my third live of the day. We're busting our butt here for you guys. We're trying to bring you guys the news as accurately as possible. Show us some love by just hitting that thumbs up. Let's keep going.
The case involving the death of Celeste Rivas. And this is a really interesting twist. And underlying it all is what I believe is a war between the LAPD and the LA County Medical Examiner. So here's what happened. The LA Times got hold of a petition that the LAPD filed asking to block the medical examiner from releasing any information about the death of Celeste Rivas. This is highly unusual. And as a matter of fact, the LAPD tried this back in September, and the judge in that case said there's no basis for doing that the LAPD didn't make a case. Well, they went back again, apparently a few days ago, and they asked again, seal all the information that the medical examiner has, and that judge did it. And the medical examiner was pissed and came out with a statement saying it's highly unusual. They believe in transparency, obviously a problem. The LA Times has seen that petition. The petition itself is sealed. So you can't even see the LAPD applying to get the order.
Right, because the petition has the names of all those people, and you can't hide those names. So all the people that the LAPD believes might very well be endangered, they're going to be inside of that petition. It's going to be very detailed because the judge has to be able to have a full scope of what's going on before he makes a decision. I just want to give a big shout out to Harvey. Only in that, you know, I'm a guy who is very conscious about my weight. I'm trying to do my best to be healthy and all that stuff. This guy is 70-something years old. Look at this guy's body, man. This guy looks great for his age. All right. One could only hope that, you know, I pray to God that when I get to this man's age, that I look like him. And listen, he's wrong about Frozen, and I got a whole bunch of problems with him doubling down on this whole Frozen thing and not apologizing, just keeping it moving. You know, your check's still gonna come if you're wrong once in a while, man. But on a personal note, Harvey, man, you look great, bro. God bless you. Let's keep going.
It's all sealed. The LA Times, they say they've seen the petition, and in it, it says that a grand jury was convened in mid-November, just a week or so ago, and it's an investigative grand jury where they can subpoena witnesses and help the LAPD get information. Because think about it. The LAPD calls somebody and says, we want to talk to you. They say no. But if the grand jury subpoenas them, they have to come and they have to.
My mom's just trying to tempt my masculinity, man. Here I am showing some masculine, heterosexual love to Harvey, and they over here trying to turn it into something else, man. Damn, it be your own kind. It be your own homies, man. Your own strategic eyes family that trying to do you dirty. Nah, strategic eyes don't roll that way. It's nothing but masculine, heterosexual love here, okay? That's it.
To testify. So that's why law enforcement uses these grand juries. So this is an investigative grand jury. It met for a couple of days. We don't know if it's still in force. My guess would be it probably is, because the LAPD is looking at this, trying to get information. And a lot of people, when LAPD calls, says, we don't want to talk. But they have to if it's a grand jury. So this gets back to David. We told you that David, even though nothing is formal, the LAPD is viewing him as a suspect in a homicide. They believe it's a homicide, even though the medical examiner hasn't yet said that, and we're told they may never be able to because of the condition of her body. We also, you may know, reported a story over the weekend that we have been told by sources that her body was partially frozen.
Here we go. Gosh, man, you could have just talked about the indictment, man. Here we go. Not the indictment. He didn't get indicted, but the grand jury. Here we go. He had to bring back the Frozen. Here we go. Come on.
Reported a story over the weekend that we have been told by sources that her body was partially frozen. The captain of the LAPD came out and said that's not true. We went back to our source connected to the medical examiner, and they tripled, quadrupled, sextupled down and said it was partially frozen. Interesting that her finger.
See, what I want, listen, I'm sorry to bring it back, but I got a point to make. See, these are the mocha latte people I'm talking about. Look, Harvey over here taking all the punches. He's taking all the punches. He getting abused by us on the internet because of this frozen thing. And look what his people do in the background. They sipping on the mocha lattes, those mocha chocolates, when they should be giving him accurate information. Look at this. Harvey, I know you watching my show. I know you are. I feel it in my bones. I will come work for you for a week, and I will clean out shop for you, bro. I will fire all these people. I'll be your firing consultant, and we'll get some real Americans in this position that'll get you some accurate information. Like I keep telling you people, rule number 1, never make your boss look bad. Look at him stuffing his face with that mocha chocolate. Look at that.
Was partially frozen.
Look at him.
Interesting that her fingers were so waterlogged they couldn't get a fingerprint off of it. This is direct from the medical examiner's documents. It says that they couldn't get that fingerprint because of waterlogged fingers. So that is the current state of this case. To summarize, the LAPD is clearly in the throes of an investigation. They're using the grand jury to get witnesses, presumably, to talk that they otherwise could not get to speak to them. David, we're told, is a suspect. We're told there is a second suspect that has something to do with the dismemberment of Celeste's body. There is a huge conflict between the medical examiner and the LAPD. Lauren Conlin from LA Magazine would also like to chime in, but before she does, would you like to subscribe?
I want to echo a couple things that Harvey said here. First and foremost, I have said from the start, it seems like LAPD and the medical examiner's office are completely at odds here. And I spoke to a forensic.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It looked like this lady. I was tripping, man. It looked like she was popping out the screen. Like her forehead, everything looked like 3D. Like it was coming at me. I was like, oh, what's happening here? Like it literally looked 3D. I'm losing my mind here, guys. I think I need some sleep.
Death investigator the other day, Joseph Scott Morgan, about the possibility of Celeste's body being frozen at one point. Not being frozen upon discovery, but at one point.
Okay, bring that back because now they walking, now they tap dancing. Let's bring that back because what she's saying is important because now they tap dancing because he initially said that the body was partially frozen when it got to the ME's office. Now she talking about at some point. Now that could have been the case. Nobody would have argued with that. What we argue with is that how is it possible if SF Investigates says that he has watched all of the video in that area and he could attest and he has passed off this video to the LAPD. He could attest that that car did not move after it was dropped off on July 29th until it was picked up by the LAPD and nobody went into the car and put anything in there. How is it that this body's it's going to be decomposing, but still defrosting rather, from July 29th to September 8th. It's not possible. So now they're saying something different. Now they're saying that at some point it was frozen. Now that's possible. That's 100% possible. But that's not what Harvey said initially. That's not what he said. So I'm going to digest what this lady's saying. She distracted me because she looked like she was 3D, like she was coming from me through the screen. I'm going to put that aside and I'm just going to digest her words. Let's see what she has to say.
She does. Would you like to subscribe?
I want to echo a couple things that Harvey said here. First and foremost, I have said from the start, it seems like LAPD and the medical examiner's office are completely at odds here. And I spoke to a forensic death investigator the other day, Joseph Scott Morgan, about the possibility of Celeste's body being frozen at one point. Not being frozen upon discovery, but at one point. Now, what he said was, a medical examiner would be able to tell based on doing.
All right, so we heard this already. I thought she said that the new thing that's coming out is they said at some point. No, she just asked the question to the Scott Morgan guy if it's possible it could have happened before. And then he explains, and we covered this before, he explains that yes, they could go under a microscope and they could see how the cells arrange, because the cells get arranged very tightly when it's frozen. I told you guys that the cell wall sometimes bursts. Crystalline structures are formed inside of the fluids and the cells and all that good stuff. You know, I'm not a medical examiner, but we take classes on this stuff so that we could better understand what we're seeing when we come on these crime scenes and see certain things. So I'm not an expert, but I have been trained in some of these things just to at least recognize it and understand the science to it, right? So I explained all of that to you, and that's basically what she's saying Joseph Scott Morgan said. But I thought they were saying that, oh, no, there's a new theory now. No. They're just gauging if it's possible. And of course it's possible, but it's not what Harvey said. What Harvey said was that when the body came to the morgue, it was still thawing. It was partially frozen. And then he threw in those little sprinkles that her fingers were so waterlogged that they couldn't fingerprint her. That's what Harvey said. He didn't say that they did their tests and they looked at the cell structure under the microscope and it appears that the body was frozen at some point. Not right now, but at some point it was frozen. Nobody would argue with that. We have no proof. We don't know. Yeah, sure, could it happen? Makes perfect sense. Trying to store the body, don't know what to do with it, put it in a freezer. I get it. Wouldn't be the first or the last time a maniacal maniac did something like that with a body. But that's not what Harvey said. Harvey said, body comes in the morgue. Bodies on the slab, that slab of metal that they put the bodies on, that body was thawing. That body was thawing. If you know what I'm talking about, go in your fridge right now, get that Thanksgiving chicken, turkey. It was thawing. It was still melting. Not melted. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, nah.
Test with the tissue. So they would be able to see if the body had thawed, had unthawed through microscopic cellular tissue. I mean, his words, not mine. But when TMZ got this leak from a source close to the medical examiner's office, my understanding was that testing had been done. It had been done to the point that the LAPD deemed this a homicide or a murder investigation, although they haven't come right out and said this. This was reported by the LA Times based on the petition they obtained by the LAPD blocking the medical examiner from releasing the death records. They saw this information that they are treating this like a homicide. So again, in my opinion, that came from the medical examiner's findings that they don't want out there. They do not want people like us speculating what possibly could have happened to Celeste and who was involved, because they don't want to, I guess, hinder their investigation. Although, I mean, at this point, there's tons of speculation, but I do believe that the theory of her body being frozen at one point is correct based on that. Now, just piggybacking off of this, on that petition to block the records from being released, the LA Times said they saw a grand jury number, which sort of got them thinking, okay, is a grand jury.
All right, so we kind of went through this already. I don't want to hijack their whole show. We do look at TMZ as a news source, and for news sources, we will react to it in its entirety if we feel like it. If it's like a small-time YouTuber, we're not going to do that because it's not fair to them. That's their creative property. We want to just review a little piece of it and then send you to go view it for yourself. But we kind of read this already inside of the article, so it's no need to rehash it. Let's go on over to just two more things on the whole frozen thing, and then we'll get out of here.
Claiming her body was partially frozen when it was discovered in the Tesla registered to singer David. Now, this is something LAPD publicly disputes. Harvey Levin, executive producer, founder of TMZ, joins us now live with the latest twists in this already very tense and tight-lipped investigation. Harvey, so many questions, beginning with this detail about was her body partially frozen or not? There is discrepancy, and why does this matter?
Well, I think that it's really important, actually. So we reported over the weekend that we were told the body was partially frozen when it was found. That's pretty remarkable because, remember, it was inside that car for days, and it was hot out.
What I tell you, and you know what, Harvey is a lawyer. He's a really smart guy. This is a really smart guy. This guy is a gajillionaire when it comes to entertainment. He's got, I don't want to clock the man's money, but I could definitely see Harvey with like 50 or 100 million. That's because this guy's got money. Money. He's a smart guy too, real smart guy. He keeps saying days. You notice that? Her body was in the trunk for days, keeps minimizing. She wasn't in the trunk for days. She was in the trunk for weeks. She was in the trunk for a whole month at minimum. But you notice that, how he just played with those words, and you hear this stuff and it goes in your subconscious and you don't register it, but it programs you and think, oh, it's not that long. It's possible. And he prefaces it a little bit like, oh, it was very surprising because, she was in the trunk for days. So he's like kind of give you both sides. Like, even I found it hard to believe because she was in the trunk for days. But in your subconscious, you're going to say, well, days, it could possibly be thawing out still in a couple of days. See, your subconscious would have a much different reaction if you hear she was in the trunk at least from July 29th. That's what we could see. We don't know if that car was anywhere else and she was still in the trunk. But at least from July 29th until September 8th, she was in that trunk. That's weeks. That's like what, 5 weeks that she was in that trunk? That's a whole lot more than days. So now when you say July 29th to September 8th, oh, hell no. Let me play that. Oh, hell no. There's no way that she's still thawing out and partially frozen on that slab in the medical examiner's office if she was in that trunk since July 29th. You got to listen to the play of words, man. This is how they get us. This is how they get you. This is how they get you in every facet of life. You got to listen to the details, the words. Remember what I tell you on this show all the time. Words have power. They don't just have meanings and definitions. They have power. He just minimized that entire part of the investigation by making it seem like she was just in that car for a couple of days. Let's keep going.
When it was found, remember, it was sitting in late August, early September. So it appeared.
Once again, late August, early September. Wrong. Where's your evidence of that car sitting there from late August to early September? Once again, he is changing the narrative to fit his story. He's changing the narrative. He's now saying that the last time that car was there was when it got a ticket. But he's not lying to you, though. He's a lawyer. He's a master of deception. He's basically saying, well, I'm going to start my timeline from when the first time, when they give a ticket to the car. That's when he starts his timeline. When they give a ticket to the car, that's his timeline. Deep, man. And now it makes sense because it's just a couple of days. Late August. Yeah, all right, bro. Good try.
That the body had been frozen somewhere and was thawing out. Now, the LAPD captain who is running this said, on the LAPD side, came out yesterday and said the body was not frozen. So we have, I don't want to be specific here, but we have a source who is very, very well connected with the medical examiner who sextupled down 5 times, had told us, and we called again today, that the body was frozen, that it was partially frozen when found. We also know there is a document, and the document essentially says, I don't have it in front of me right now, but it says that they couldn't take fingerprints on her fingers because they were filled with water. So, I'm sorry, Charles, what? They were waterlogged. Thank you. They were waterlogged, so they couldn't take fingerprints. So, that seems to say something, but
Yeah, even his people's trying to like, yo, make sure you careful what you say, man, because you know these internet people ain't playing. They coming for you, Harvey. Let's keep going.
I will tell you, there seems to be some.
And first of all, I want to see this document, right?
Dispute.
So if you got your hands on a document and you've reviewed it and you're basically telling us the contents of the document, why can't you just post the document? TMZ is good for that. They post everything. They post your divorce papers. They post your death certificate. They post everything. They go, the star goes to the restaurant. The star finished eating. They go in the garbage. They go to the garbage and see what you ate. They go to the garbage of the star's house, and they could tell you pregnant before you even tell your spouse. Oh, we found a pregnancy stick inside of the garbage can. Looks like she's expecting again. Husband don't even know yet. Why don't you post that document? We want to see it. You got a document that tells you that her fingers were waterlogged. I want to see the document. But we also know, those of us who are a part of the law enforcement community, that it's not just water that could cause that. Like I told you guys in the previous video, she is in a plastic bag sealed up. There's nowhere for her intestinal fluids, the liquids in her body, the blood, the water, the whatever. There's no place for it to go. It's in a plastic bag. And her extremities and her limbs are just stewing in it. And her body is decomposing. Of course, her fingers are going to be waterlogged. She's got all types of enzymes in there. Makes sense. It's not going to be dry like a mummy. People are expecting that her body was dry. Her body would not be dry under those circumstances. She was sealed in a bag and left inside of a trunk to stew in California heat all day long, all night, temperature up, temperature down. We did a breakdown. The research crew did a breakdown and gave you guys each day and the temperature for each day. And it surprised me because I'm not from California. Big shout out whoever gave us coffee. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. It surprised me because I'm not from Cali. I didn't know how crazy the temperature swings are. It's 80 degrees during the day, 60 degrees in the night. Her body is going through that. But the funny thing is that she's getting 12, 16 hours of beaming sun. And so now it's not 80 degrees in that trunk. It's 120 degrees because it's an insulated area. It's not going to go from 120, 130 degrees inside that trunk to now 60 degrees because it's cold outside and it's the nighttime. It's going to gradually go down. So instead of like 16 hours of 120 degrees, 16 hours, 120 degrees, then the next hour is 110 degrees, then it's 90 degrees, then it's 80 degrees. By the end of the night, finally it starts to level out and be ambient temperature, the temperature that's outside. And then guess what? The sun pops up again, and here comes the temperature rising all over again. Her body was experiencing those extremes in temperature in a closed environment. Like I told you guys, I'm a certified crime scene technician as well. I got that when I worked in corrections. When I was in corrections, they gave you every training on the planet. When I'm in the police department, they only give you the training that's necessary for you to do your job. So thank God I started my career in corrections where I got all these crazy certifications that help me now that I'm a detective in the police department. That was a godsend. God was preparing me for this mission. As I told you guys before, Crime Scene 101, never store biological materials in a plastic bag. That's why you'll see those crime scene technicians walking around with bloody brown bags. Even though it's bloody, like your intuition would be like, well, put that in a plastic bag. It's bloody. It's dripping blood. Nope. You double and you triple that brown bag until the blood stops seeping out. Why? Because if you put it in plastic, the plastic promotes bacteria. So some people are saying, oh, you know, she's in a plastic bag. Oh, it would slow down the decomposition. No, it wouldn't. Being in that plastic bag would accelerate decomposition. Because it's almost like it's fermenting. It's incubating that bacteria. So now you have a hot environment, a wet environment, because your body is mostly composed of liquid, and you're now decomposing into liquid. From liquid you came from liquid you return, ladies and gentlemen. And then you're in a closed, sealed environment, which is a plastic bag. Terrible storm. The worst possible scenario for crime scene technicians, for forensic scientists, for MEs is this situation. Literally, what they had in that bag was soup and bones. That's what they had. Soup, hair, clothing, jewelry, and bones. That's a reality of what happened when they opened up that bag. Not only that, they needed to have some serious breathing apparatus as well. Because the moment they opened that bag, I could smell it right now. Once you smell it, you never unsmell it. I've smelled it so many times, it never leaves you. Sometimes when I think about the smell, I gag. It's like a reflex. That smell is unlike anything else. The smell of death. Let's keep going.
Here between medical examiner and LAPD on this. Now, the LAPD does not have the medical examiner's report yet. We're told not just cause of death and manner of death, but as far as we know, they don't even have toxicology back. But the medical examiner, what we're getting is, yes, partially frozen.
You also report about a tense relationship between the LAPD and the medical examiner's office, hence sort of the infighting that we're seeing play out publicly in this.
All right, before they answer that question, we'll go back for a second. I just want to answer this question because I want people to be brought up to speed, you know. Appreciate you guys for joining me. Tanner Josh says, so how the towing workers didn't smell it? They did smell it. They reported it to the LAPD. That's why we're here. We're here because the tow yard employees smelled the decomposition and they reported it to the LAPD. Hope that answers your question.
Play out publicly in this investigation. We were reporting, based on your reporting, that LAPD put a security hold, which basically is a gag order, on the medical examiner's office. A medical examiner came out with a statement yesterday that we had here that's basically said, this is unusual and we don't like this. What do you know about that?
Yeah, it seems to align with what we've been told about the tension over the last few years between the ME and the LAPD. There is one person in LAPD high up who said to me, kind of groused and said that in Matthew Perry's death, we found out through the media and not the medical examiner what the cause of death was. So it seems like, and I don't know what the source of it is, but there seems to be some tension there.
Okay, and then, you know, we keep citing you about David being a suspect because we can't even get confirmed from LAPD that David is a suspect. Yet you're already talking about a second suspect is involved in this. What's going on there?
Well, I mean, look, we're talking to sources, and honestly, Marla, for many, many, many weeks, we got nothing. I mean, it was total lockdown in a very unusual way. I mean, usually sources will talk to us here and there, but it was just total lockdown. We have since been able to get information, and we are told that even though the medical examiner has not determined cause or manner of death, in fact, we're told that it's unlikely they will determine it because of the state of the body, that the LAPD is viewing this as a homicide and viewing David as a suspect. We are also told that they have a second suspect, and again, this is what we're being told from our LAPD sources, that they have a second suspect, and it has to do with the dismemberment of Celeste's body. Now, Mark Garagos, who is my co-host on our Two Angry Men podcast, Mark has a law enforcement source who is involved in this, who said that the second person they're looking at, they are looking at both before, during, and after Celeste's death, and which is more than what I got and what my staff got.
All right, hold on real quick, guys. We have almost 460 people, 459 to be exact, watching the stream right now. Please hit that like button, guys. Support the channel. A lot of new people coming into the chat. Many of you guys we haven't seen in a while. We'd love if you just remember to hit that like button, because I know you didn't hit that like button. Because I forget. I go on my favorite YouTube channels, and I'm just watching the content, and I totally forget to hit that like button. And I always, hey, you ask for people to hit the like button for you. You got to remember, too, you know, it's just instinct. You want to get the content. But this is what you have to do if you want to support these channels, my channel and any other channel that you like. Even if the person has 1 million subscribers, they still need those like buttons. They need those like buttons so they can grow their channel. Big shout out to The research, the moderators rather, they highlighted somebody's question. It says, strategic, does a grand jury have as long as they want to make a decision? Is there a standard length of time for review? There is like a standard length of time to have a specific grand jury. If you don't finish presenting your case in that time, then you got to start all over again with another grand jury. But investigative grand juries are a little different. I think they could just keep convening it to new grand juries. I don't know. There is no time limit on an investigative grand jury because some investigative grand juries could take months and years, but they're not going back to the same grand jury. A grand jury is impaneled for a certain amount of time. They use that grand jury and then they move on to another grand jury on the same case. Or investigative grand juries, just hopefully, you know, and then we're talking about a grand jury to like get an indictment, which I don't know if California does. We do that in New York, where we get our indictments from the grand juries, true bills or whatever. That one has to be done within the term of that specific grand jury. You can't go for an indictment for a grand jury, and that's usually like I think it's like a couple of weeks or something like that. They're in panel for a couple of weeks. You can't go before one grand jury for an indictment, not finish your presentation, and then continue with a brand new grand jury. It doesn't work that way. Investigative grand juries are different from indictment style grand juries. One, no time limit. Do it as long as you need to do it until your case is done, which is the investigative one, which is the one that they're doing right now in California. And the other one does have a time limit. It has to be done within the term of that grand jury. Otherwise, you just got to start all over again. All right, let's keep going.
But I know the nature of Mark's information, and it is somebody connected to all of this. So what I'm telling you is as much as what I know.
Okay. And are your sources telling you that we will get some sort of a breaking news situation where finally we get more details soon? Is there a timeline that we can expect? Because this is so unusual, in your own words, in all the years you've been doing this, how tight-lipped this entire investigation has been. So my bottom line question here as we wrap this up is, how soon can we expect some hard information from LAPD?
Well, two thoughts. One is we're told not immediately that this is not going to happen, you know, in the next day or two for sure. I was told not immediately. It's a complicated investigation. The second thing is what you just said, Marla. I'm getting so tired of hearing people saying, in all the years you've done, that you just tell me I'm old.
You're not. You're not old. You're not old, Harvey. You're wise. You're experienced. We appreciate all the wisdom that you bring.
Yeah.
All right, yo, big shout out to Fox 11 and TMZ and all that good stuff. We appreciate them. This is them having their conversation. I'm gonna pass this one because I want to go hang out with the family. This one's basically where I think what did they say? What was probative about this one right here? There was. Whatever. He said something about, oh, you know, let me go over here. I should say it. I think that in this one, apparently from the synopsis, this guy says that the ME doesn't have all the facts. And I know that. And I told you guys that. I don't need to hear from this guy. I was listening to him and Harvey talk earlier. And I got to say, you know, a lot of what he's saying, this is a very accomplished and experienced attorney, by the way, Mark Garagos. But he's a defense attorney at heart. So you guys gotta understand, whenever you watch these opinion channels, even my channel, understand that I'm going to admit to you that I'm gonna have subconsciously a law enforcement bias because I'm a law enforcement officer. But also, more specifically though, I want you guys to make sure that you're very discerning and you always take with a grain of salt what a lot of these attorneys tell you, because they're going to have those same biases. So you're going to hear attorney and you're going to say, oh my God, you know, this is the authority on what's going to happen in court. That's not necessarily true. All right. A lot of these guys, it's usually like 2 to 1. For every one former prosecutor that you'll see on these shows, Long Crime, Court TV, TMZ, whatever, there's going to be 2 defense attorneys that you're going to see on these shows. Defense attorneys are different than prosecutors. They think differently. And whether they want to believe it or not, they're usually biased towards the perpetrator. They usually are. And they're usually biased against the government because they fight against the government. They are engaged in a mortal war against the government to try and bring relief to their defendants. And I'm not saying this with any shade, because anybody who follows the show, and guess what? We got a lot of new subscribers, so I don't blame you if you're new to the channel. I constantly say that I have more respect for defense attorneys than any other officer of the court in our criminal justice system. Because in our Constitution, it doesn't say anything about prosecutors, doesn't say anything about detectives. It speaks about defense attorneys, because our founding fathers understood that you have to have access to a robust defense when you're going up against the government. Because it's the government with unlimited resources going up against you with no resources. So great care was taken into understanding the importance of defense attorneys. So I have nothing but respect for defense attorneys in our system. But even with all the respect I have for them, we got to understand that they're coming from a biased perspective, okay? So some of the things that he was saying about withholding the report and all that stuff, this very accomplished guy, I disagree with him. And I believe that I felt like there was a lot of bias that you would find from a defense attorney talking about policing. And guess what? He's a defense attorney. All right, guys, you guys are amazing, man. Please hit that like button, support the channel. Let's get those lights up before you get out the building. Listen, I don't like asking people for anything. I rarely do. The only reason why I asked you guys about these likes is because YouTube told me specifically, when you're a content creator, you have your own email that you send to somebody that's like assigned to you. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure the person got like 10,000 creators. But once you get to that certain level, you get like a different layer of tech support. And they specifically told me, if you want your channel to grow, you have to ask your audience to hit the like button and engage with the channel, whether it's thumbs up in the chat or a smiley face or saying something. Engagement and thumbs up and likes is what makes the channel grow. That's what they told me. That's what they told me. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. So I don't like begging people and asking people for things. But this is what I'm told to ask my audience in order for my channel to grow. And if you're going to take the time to watch the show, many of you are here for the entire show. Some of you have been here for 1 hour and 2 minutes. The same amount of time I'm here, you're here. Hit the like button. It doesn't make no sense that I'm going live and you're coming and you're watching my show on a regular basis. You're not hitting the like button. Come on, help me out, all right? Don't make me your dirty little secret. I know I'm sexy, but come on. I see you guys on the next one. Make sure that you join that membership. And we have a Patreon, ladies and gentlemen, that's popping. Our Patreon is fire. Anybody who's a part of the Patreon will tell you the Patreon is fire. It's fire. We give you exclusive content that you cannot find here on YouTube. I'm not posting my Patreon content for you guys to see who are not part of the Patreon. Patreon content is exclusive. And we also have members-only live streams that we do for the members. So if you go to the members and go to Patreon, you get exclusive content that the rest of the world will not see. It's raw, it's real, and it's very entertaining. I'll see you guys on the next one. Strategic is out of here. Peace.